Welcome back to Women's Wealth, The Middle Way, the show that answers your questions about work, money, and family. My name is Susan McGlory Michael, and I am the CEO and founder of Glen, a wealth management firm in New Jersey. Our guest today is Linda Hamilton, an award-winning CPA and founder of Growth, Profit, Scale. Linda helps business owners create growth plans that focus on hiring, scaling, and exiting their businesses successfully. Welcome, Linda.
Hi, Susan. Thank you for inviting me. It's great to talk to you.
We are thrilled to have you here today, and we would love to hear about your journey. Could you share with us how you got to where you are today in this? I know you have a very successful business, and some big moments that really made a difference in your career.
Like most entrepreneurs, the business journey is not a straight path, which is what I often tell my students and clients. I started my CPA firm maybe 30-some years ago. Initially, we focused predominantly on tax planning, tax compliance, tax strategies. But as I went out and spoke to business groups, which I've always enjoyed doing, I would educate them about taxes. People get so nervous about all their tax filings, and that whenever I speak, they would bring up questions and people would say, my accountant never talks to me about these things. We never talk about anything. But accountants, by and large, are, they're very busy. It's a deadline-driven business, and so you need to be able to find time to talk to your accountants on the off season so that you can have good conversations. But from running my tax practice for all these years, I always looked at business as kind of like a puzzle, right? There's a lot of pieces that fit together. I take a holistic view because it's not just about saving taxes. You have to be looking at how taxes impact your decisions, yes, but your decisions aren't totally moved by the taxes. That's like the tail chasing the dog. As my business evolved, I began to expand into more and more advisory and workshops that teach women how to grow their business. So in terms of the pivotal moments, I think one of the biggest pivotal moments for me was when I joined the Women Presidents Organization back in early 2002. Going to meetings and being with a group of 20 business owners, all in different industries, it made me realize that I'm not just an accountant. Accounting is my technical skill and tax is my technical skill, but I'm a business owner, and that's a very different hat. And so that was a very pivotal moment in how I restructured my firm to be both tax advisor and business advisor.
And I couldn't agree with you more. I think that the Women's Presidents Organization, especially for women who are in business and want to make sure that they're doing things right, growing, and also connecting with other women. And I have actually sat in many of your panels and your presentations, and I think it's been life-changing for so many women to hear another woman who's not just telling them what to do, but walking the walk with them. And so that's been really powerful. But how do you help women business owners visualize and strategize their plan for their futures? Like, where do they begin? I'm sure they all look at you with deer in headlights.
Well, communication is key, and we want to be able to make sure they talk. The one thing I really go out of my way to do is to make sure my clients and my students in my business planning workshops feel that it's safe to ask me questions. I'm never going to make them feel I'm too busy to answer their questions. I'm never going to make them feel that it's a stupid question. Their questions are important. There's never a question that shouldn't be asked. And oftentimes when you're in a class situation, if one person has the question, many do. The way I usually start is with a one-page business plan, which is really a focus tool. And in 2016, I was very fortunate to be part of WBENC, Women's Business Enterprise Council, and specifically the WBENC Metro New York and the Greater DMV. And in working with Sandra Eberhard, the CEO of WBENC, she had the brilliant idea to partner with one of our corporate members into bringing a Sage Advice program for business owners. And one of the essential tools of that program is creating a one-page business plan. I have continued to use that tool. I've been teaching it since 2016, but I use it throughout my work now. And one of the first things we do is start with your vision, visualizing what does the future look like for your business? How big do you want to grow? What kind of resources do you need to grow? Is the growth you have profitable? I always want to be really careful that business owners, when they're growing, which, top line revenue is a vanity number, you also need to make sure it's profitable revenue because the growth eats cash. Whenever I'm working with a business owner, I'm making sure that we're focusing and asking questions so they have time to think about it.
I'm sitting here smiling because I actually remember years ago attending one of the workshops you did in which you were amazing how you could simplify that one-page business plan. But I watched women walk out of that room empowered. They were talking among each other. They were sharing the plans. So I think in some ways the message is also you were able to take something that could be very complicated and a little overwhelming, and people say, I'll get to that later, and make it a very doable, executing type of program. And so for that, I will tell you, having watched it happen, when you talk about you visualize it and then strategically start the plan, I watched it happen. Kudos to you. And that's a perfect example of finding your passion and going with it.
And I just want to emphasize again, when you're using that plan, because it's so simple, it's very quick, but I'm able to say, okay, we want to double our growth. Well, let's look at our pricing. Let's look at what kind of expenses we have. It's just a really phenomenal exercise. Everyone that takes our classes, they do feel empowered by having this tool. It can help you talk to bankers. It can help you talk to your own accountant, all right? I'm not necessarily their accountant. In that case, I'm more the instructor or the guide. It makes it easier for you to explain your goals and what you're trying to accomplish, and it makes it easier for other people to help you. And the only other thing I would say is when you have a plan, a written plan, businesses that actually go through the act of planning grow 30% faster than other businesses, and they're much more likely to have sustainable growth and profitability.
I 100% agree with everything you're saying. And when you take a person or you take an individual or business and they're visualizing it and they're strategically beginning to put this all down and really begin to get a concrete foundation, the next step, though, as professionals, as we both know, is networking. And, I know you mentioned WBENC, WPO. There are so many organizations out there, entrepreneurs organizations. I think it's key. We often negate the importance of those and how they can enhance our journey and actually influence us as women business owners.
That's a really great point, and I totally agree with you. There's many ways to get support, but one thing is common for all of us who start businesses and own businesses, whether they're in startup mode or whether early growth phase or even leading a multi-million-dollar company, that it's very lonely at the top. There's no one who gets you or understands the challenges you have or the opportunities. So joining professional networks, the ones you mentioned that we're both involved with, Women's Business Enterprise Council, WBENC, and the Women Presidents Organization, they're very different, but WBENC provides a lot of educational opportunities, and you have a network, a huge network across the country, and even some global connections that can help you learn what's working for others. WPO has been a peer advisory group, and when I say peer advisory, you're able to brainstorm with others. You're able to bring a challenge to the group and say, this is my challenge. This is what I'm grappling with. It might be an employee challenge, a hiring challenge, a sales challenge, and asking that group around you what their experience has been with it and what insights and advice, even if it's not your roundtable, or some people would call them hot seats and issues, problem solving. You learn just from the discussion around the table. There is nothing more valuable than sharing business owners' direct experience in the trenches. And experts are great, consultants are great. We need them. We need coaches, but we also need that network of support that can help us know how to grow your business. There's not really a manual. If you Google it, there's a lot of opinions out there on how to grow a business.
And you know what? I think the one word that kept coming to mind when you were talking was inspire. I think my business would not be where it is today if it wasn't for these organizations. But I think in a lot of ways, I think these are the women that have really journeyed and are very successful and at all different stages of their careers and businesses have inspired. I think we inspire each other. And that is a gift that we can't not recognize and acknowledge. Linda, every time we have this little gathering in which we invite women that really have inspired us, we often ask them to leave our listeners with what advice they can share with women entrepreneurs who might be thinking about an exit strategy, because I think we don't talk enough about that. And you probably come to mind when I think about exit strategy and a person that has really educated and done this well. So can you talk to us about what we should be thinking about as women entrepreneurs? Everyone starts a business, but we don't give enough time thinking about the exit of the business.
Well, that's true, because most of us think we don't want to retire ever. We love our businesses. Of course, there does come a point where maybe we're tired or we want to move on or do something different. One mistake I see is waiting too long. You don't want to wait until you're very close to wanting to exit it. You can't sell a business overnight. You can't find a successor overnight. So you want to be proactive. Exit planning is a process. It's not an event. And so just like you have a sales process, an HR process, an accounting process, having a mindset of someday I will exit will make you focus on growth and on profitability and cash flow, because so many are focused just on top line revenue, but on the other hand, they want to minimize taxable profits. Well, that might sound good from a tax planning point of view when you get your tax bill, but it can make it harder to get loans, credit lines to fund growth, and it can devalue a business in the long run. So I think what you need to do if you're going to start is to understand your options. You can get a free score on my website, Are You Business Ready? But I think it really helps for us to look back and say, step back from our business, take off our rose-colored glasses. How would somebody else look at our business if they were going to sell? If somebody came in the door and offered to buy, would we be able to do that? So understanding your own objectives, your own gaps, identify them, means you can work on increasing value. You can get money out of this asset that is your business. Sometimes 50 to 90% of your wealth can be tied up in the business because you spent 20 years growing it, 15 years growing it, and you really want to have a proactive plan about what exiting might look at, how many different options you have.
You're getting me excited, and there's no way I'm not going to go right to your website, because I really do want to think about those things. I think all of us do, because even when we're in the midst of planning, we want to say, are we doing it right? Are we on the right path? Have we asked ourselves the right questions? So I can't thank you enough for coming on today, and I know that the listeners are grateful for your intellectual capital that you shared with us so graciously. So thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Susan.
Thanks for tuning into today's episode of Women's Wealth, The Middle Way. Make sure to subscribe to us and leave a review on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, or your favorite podcast app. Join us for new episodes every other Wednesday. See you in 2 weeks.